For this set of Inktober prompts, I'm challenging myself with a limited color palette. It's not something I always do, but it forces me to focus on value and contrast rather than relying on a full spectrum of colors. With just 2 or 3 colors, I will show you how I tackle this and how it can lead to unexpected results. If you ever wanted to simplify your palette or push yourself in mixing colors, this exercise is perfect for you. Let's dive in. So I chose a set of 3 colors that were not primary. For this first one, this is red violet, lead red, and rose sepia. And it will be an interesting palette because we have no blue inside, and that might be a challenge. But bear with me, it's just an experiment and I just want to have fun. So the first thing you have to keep in mind is that you won't get anything close to the original image, because in my original image there is blue on the book and I don't have blue. So this set of colors is perfect, almost perfect for skin tones, and I am although having a hard time to blend because of the paper is very thin, and when you put a bit of water on top of it, it's warping very quickly. But for the book, I decided I could go and embrace what I have, and I can achieve a beautiful neutral gray, which is always interesting to know how to mix that. And then I'm using the contrast, as I said, from getting dark colors and mixing with light colors, warm colors, because this is all I have. I don't have any cool color in this palette. In the end, I think I can get to something that is not too bad. Not entirely happy with it. Let's move to the second prompt, and it's grungy, so I used a very used old shoe. And I'm beginning with the darkest color because I think this will help me to gauge my value easier, because I have a double contrast here with a mid-tone background, on top of which I have to place the accurate values of the shoes. So it's kind of a puzzle in your mind because you have to adjust the level of value to get the correct contrast. And if what I'm saying doesn't mean anything to you, I have a complete course about contrast and value, as well as another course about color mixing in my Gouache membership. You have the link in description. So in the end, I'm pretty happy with this prompt. The grungy one is really cool, I think. In my last video, I have tested what I can add on top of gouache, so I know that Posca markers are working well, so I can add all the lettering on my guidebook and also add a bit more details with a black marker, black pen, and these ones are not getting clogged by the gouache, and you have the link for them in the description below. And always the best moment is to place the label. It means it's finished and I like the look of it on top of the craft paper. For this second set, I will use rose sepia, rose sienna, and Myosotis blue. So this time I have a blue and I have a contrast between warm and cool, but no red, no pink, no yellow. So I will have to adapt. And I won't get what I have on the original journal, which is this one from Barcelona. I just want to draw the cover, but with my limited color palette, it will be very interesting what I will get. As earlier, I'm beginning with the darkest color, which is the rose sepia, which is pretty dark. I know it looks black on the camera, but believe me, it's a dark brown. And then I have to adapt to what I have. And also I have a challenge, which is that I chose my colors very poorly because my craft paper has a mid-tone beige brown and I have a rose sienna, which is almost the same color. So getting the color to be visible on top of the background is really an issue with this palette. So not my fav, I must say, and it will certainly need a ton of outlining. For the other prompt, which is drive, I chose to draw a mirror on a car where you can see what's behind you. Now I have learned from the previous prompt, so I know I need a high contrast so I can understand and see what's going on. So go with very dark and very light to show the highlights of the shiny plastic. For the landscape, it's another story because no green available except a pretty light green because my Myosotis blue has white inside. It's not a pure blue, so when I mix it with my rose sienna, I get a pretty dull, weak green, which doesn't read as green, actually. Now let's add some details with the outliner because this will help me define what it is exactly, because so far I'm not sure you can see that this is a journal cover. And while I am here, I can also refine some shapes on the mirror because it's always hard for me to get manufactured objects, as I said in my video before. Now for this new set, this is ultramarine blue, cobalt green and lemon yellow. So only cool colors, no warm colors, but very interesting because I have a high contrast between the ultramarine blue and the lemon yellow, so it will be easier. And I've chosen that because I am using a landscape as a reference image, so it's interesting that I have a bit of green, a bit of blue and yellow, so I can make interesting mixes. And for this prompt, which is ridge, I am drawing a mountain with a shadow side and a sunny side. And that's cool with this palette because I can do that by mixing the cobalt and the ultramarine. I get a pretty dark shadow, and by mixing yellow with a tiny bit of cobalt blue, I get the warm meadow on the sunny side of the mountain. A bit more details with some dots of white and yellow paint, and I'm good to go for this one. For the next prompt, which is Uncharted, I chose to draw a planet, but I had a hard time blending, mixing, and I thought it was finished. This is where I placed the label, but then I thought it was a bit too difficult to recognize what it is. So I added a belt of asteroids with acrylic markers. And for the last set of prompts, I cannot go more limited than this one. It's just black and white. So it's basically a value study more than anything else. And the prompt, you guessed it, was rhinoceros. So I took a very well lit reference image so I could have a lot of contrast between my lightest values and my darkest values. It's just fun adding textures with a rigger, and the last prompt I'm doing this week is camp. I chose to make a lamp. I wanted the two prompts to mix together, so I added the lamp on the horn of the rhinoceros. And I think it adds a lot of humor to my double page. And I had to do it black and white as well, with a high contrast between the metallic parts that are pretty dark and the lit part, which is very, very white. If you're thinking of using a limited color palette, I have 3 tips for you. First, choose wisely. I mean, if you want to paint a landscape, you should have a kind of a blue, yellow, green. If you have only red, orange, and pink, yes, it's doable, but it's more difficult. So if you're just beginning with limited color palette, don't make your life more difficult. Second, focus on your values. Lights and darks are more important than color. I know I say that all the time, but color is just a cherry on the cake. It's a value that's doing all the hard work. And third, you have to accept that you will get something different from your original image with a different color range, and that's fine because it will be your interpretation as an artist. Using a limited color palette was sometimes a challenge, but it's a very interesting exercise to do if you want to learn more about color mixing and values. I hope you liked this video. Don't forget to subscribe to watch the next one in the series of Inktober, where I will talk about what I learned during this month. Let me know in the comments, have you ever worked with a limited color palette and which color did you use? I'm curious to know about that. See you soon. Thanks for watching.